Shalom. This is Shlomo Martin of JNN. That's Jerusalem News Network. Today we've caught up, literally, with a young man who's making quite a stir, crisscrossing the Holy Lands, stirring up folks. He's a radical teacher, teaching about God's unconditional love, notwithstanding religious practices. He's a radical preacher. He's preaching about God's unconditional forgiveness and inclusion, regardless of race, ethnicity, and religion. He's a radical miracle maker, restoring the wholeness of God's good creation, whether in the brokenness of disease, the marginalization of those who differ from us, the despair of those with seemingly no hope. His name is Jesus from the village of Nazareth. Let's turn to him before he has to move on in his inexorable journey, spreading the good news. Jesus, welcome to the show. Some would call you the Christ, the anointed one of God. When did you become aware of that identity? You say that your parents told you about mysterious things at the beginning when you were born, but you never really understood them. That you and your family were refugees in Egypt, and that you returned from exile to grow up in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. But Jesus, there must have been some turning point in your self-discovery. When did it occur? You say, yes, there was a time. You were 12 years old, and your family went to Jerusalem to observe the Passover. It became time for everyone to return home, but you felt compelled to remain behind, to stay in the temple of all places, and talk about God and humanity with elders far older than yourself. Goodness, Jesus, wasn't that an awful act of disobedience to your parents? You say you didn't mean it that way. It was just that this is the first time that you had a realization that your real parent was God in heaven, the Father, and not Mary and Joseph. Jesus, that act of adolescent self-affirmation seems like a time when your separation from your earthly parents to your heavenly parents took place. What took place next? Well, you say for the next 18 years, you roamed the Holy Lands with your father, who was a tecton. He's probably a stonemason. He may have been a carpenter. You followed him around, and you provided essential services for the peasant class, of which you were part. You could see the economic and social oppression of the time from the bottom up. Was there anything else going on in your life in those 18 years? You say yes. You observed widows sweeping their houses looking for coins. You saw farmers sowing seed. You saw kings holding banquets, and much more. But Jesus, what are some of the observations that you use in your teachings? Why? Well, you say that's because they illustrate the way God's unconditional love, forgiveness, and inclusion can be seen in the world around us. You mentioned 18 years. You say that those years were a period of deepening discernment. How did that discernment end? You say that your cousin John, he was kind of a weirdo. He wore animal clothes and ate bugs, lived in the desert. But he preached something quite different from others. He preached that the waters of baptism were not just for ritual cleaning, but they were for a total transformation of your life, to turn around your life toward God again. You say you really dug that understanding. So you were baptized by John, and when you came up to the murky waters of the Jordan, the heavens were open to you. The Spirit of God welcomed you to your new ministry. I know you've got to move on, Jesus. Lots more folks to spread the good news to. One last question. How long do you think your ministry will actually last? You answered that you don't know for certain, but you think it'll be a long time. This good news is for all generations. And so Jesus moves on. Where or for how long, we don't know. But I have a notion that this message of good news to all humans will touch people for ages to come, perhaps for all ages. This is Shlomo Martin, signing off with this blessing. Shalom, peace, The peace of God, which passes all understanding, abide with you and your loved ones this Christmas season and forevermore.